Hello everyone, welcome back to another one of these collection videos. Thought I'd go ahead and do a Babylon 5 collection video, seeing as I've never done one before. Didn't realize I hadn't done this franchise yet. And a new animated movie is coming out, as well as this Christmas for the 30th anniversary, a Blu-ray set. And before we get into the complete season sets, thought I'd start with the first piece of Babylon 5 media ever owned. Good place to start. On Laserdisc, we have from Season 1, The War Prayer and The Sky Full of Stars. And this was just sort of a random disc that I got in a lot of sci-fi Laserdiscs when I finally got a player. And I was really happy to have this one because Babylon 5 was a show that I had not seen since it had originally aired. I was a fan of it while it was coming out and watched it while it was coming out, but I never owned any of the VHS releases or anything, and not even at this point even the DVD releases were out. And so this was kind of my way of revisiting that show. And then we'll stick with the Laserdisc releases. From Season 2, we have The Coming of Shadows and Gropos. From Season 4, The Long Night and Into the Fire. And from Season 5, we have Objects at Rest and the finale that was filmed for the end of Season 4 and that I held on to, Sleeping in Light, which is, in my opinion, one of the best final episodes of a TV series. It is definitely up there as one of my all-time favorite final episodes. It is so emotional and impactful and is a meaningful and loving end to a journey. So one of my favorite episodes to revisit, so I had to have that on Laserdisc. Then getting into the releases of the show. On DVD, Season 1, I love these big box sets of the series. Babylon 5 I really enjoy because it is a masterpiece of planning. It is the show that I think had even more meaning for me rewatching it. Once I finally, I loved it while it was on. I loved the space station setting, I love the sci-fi universe, I love the growth of the characters, and so many of them were played with such conviction, just great performances and a real commitment to the relationships between these characters, and really was a show that made you think, made you want to examine the story as it's going along and all these pieces and how they intertwine. It's a fun journey to go on, but it's even better going through the second time and noticing things, noticing threads from earlier episodes that connect to things later on that maybe you missed the first time through, or maybe you forgot something that had happened and didn't realize. You look back and it's like, oh, wait a minute, hey, that connects to this or builds to this. So it's a series that is definitely, I think, the second time through even better than the first time, just because of the way it's put together. And in saying that, Season 1, for me, if the show had stopped here and it was just the first season, I enjoy it, and again, I love it for exploration in the beginning, although there's all these connections to what happens later on. It's a little bit, for the most part, story of the week that's happening on the station. I like a lot of that in these earlier episodes, but it would not be one of my absolute favorite shows of all time. Very enjoyable, and all the pieces are there building to a masterpiece, but it's not quite there yet for me. It really matches that. It really comes into its own and just hits the ground running with Season 2. I love Season 1 and what it builds, but for me, Season 2, it's now built up and now it's running. All engines going, just fantastic the whole way through. One of my favorite things, building up, of course, to the Shadow Wars and things happening with Earth is all great, but I love the Narn and Centauri conflict, and just that's very, very moving and emotional. Moving into season 3. And then my overall favorite season of the show, season 4. These big box sets, I have all these. I just enjoy these, the way these play out, more than the slim case things. I know they're obviously, like, look at how thick this plastic is, just to have a disc on each side, but I really like that design, the kind of shimmery covers. And then I have one of the newer, these are the repackages that they did for DVD later on, the same releases overall, but a much more compact design. Not as nice of a design for me though, but my favorite season, season 4, so I wanted to have the repack of that. Then season 5, the one that gets a lot of hate. I don't think it's quite deserved, but at the same time, yeah, it is definitely a weaker story. You can feel a lot of the elements that were put in there, as it seemed like the show was not going to get another season, so a lot of things were wrapped up in season 4. But, you know, I still enjoy season 5. It's just not as strong as 2, 3, and 4. And then, of course, you have to have the movie collection as well. Some of these were really good. The Gathering is interesting. The original pilot, it tonally isn't quite there yet. I like how things, even just in the beginning of season 1, went through. The pilot just wasn't quite polished. It wasn't quite there. Then we get In the Beginning, which is a really good prequel. That's a lot of fun. Third Space is really interesting. That one's one of the better ones. That and The River of Souls. River of Souls, like, those two are definitely movies 3 and 4, my favorites in the bunch. Call to Arms is interesting, but not quite as good as 3 and 4. And the stuff that I don't have in the collection, the Rangers movie, you know, was not very good, and I definitely saw potential in the sequel series, you know, Crusade and some of the other stuff that came out later on, but a lot of it just didn't, you know, obviously it was cut short, and in general, I don't keep things in the collection that I'm not going to rewatch. So for me, after the end of season 5, the stuff that came out after that, for the most part, was very much a one-time viewing for me. It wasn't really something I would revisit, so didn't include any of that in the collection. And the one last thing that I have, probably the most kind of fascinating piece, I actually have part of the second season from this, a Japanese DVD release in these small cases. And the way they did that was, this is discs 4 through 6, so it's part 2. So season 2, each of the seasons will be sold in 2 of these tiny DVD sets. It was really cool. They remind me kind of the size of maybe the Japanese GameCube style cases, a couple of TV shows like that, and it's still sealed, which is really cool. This I Love TV Life is sort of like budget Japanese release for TV shows, so this is just an interesting kind of oddity for the collection from season 2. But that is a look at our Babylon 5 collection. Just a fantastic sci-fi series. I'd be curious to see what the animated movie turns out to be like and what the future of the franchise holds.